Hello and welcome to Team Franco Bodybuilding Podcast. Hope you guys are doing fantastic, getting it done both in and out of the gym. Just want to apologize for my voice being a little bit funkier. Usually in the mornings it is, but a couple nights ago, took the family, went to Lincoln Park, and it was an amazing show and lots of singing for 2 straight hours. Good times. I had a lot of fun, so therefore my voice is a little off. I know it's weird to begin with, but it's a little bit stranger. All right, moving on. So I think this is a great topic, and it may not specifically apply to you, or it may. And as a coach, our goal is to set up people so they can have consistency, correct? Where you are comfortable following the consistency for progress. But ever so often, you need to reevaluate your plan. If you don't have a coach, or maybe you just started, had progress, and now it's starting to stall, or if you're a competitor, same idea. You had progress, starting to stall. Well, are you getting too comfortable? That's really the end-all, be-all of our progress. And sometimes people struggle, and it's because they're not breaking through plateaus. But I also believe sometimes we get so comfortable because we're ingrained in our heads that our goals in life is to be comfortable. Now, that could be anywhere from finding a good job, family, marriage, home. You want to reach a level of being comfortable because that also brings us peace, okay? Let's just put it out there. I mean, it's not a bad thing. You go to school for so many years, you bust your ass, you finally land a good job, and you're comfortable. It paid off, right? So that work that you did reached a goal. And it could be applied to just about everything in life. You want to get better, you got to work your butt off. If it's a sport, playing a musical instrument, relationships even. You work at it, and then you reap the rewards. Well, it's very similar to building your body, and it's very similar to competing and breaking through plateaus. But here's the difference. You have to do it almost every day if you want to continue to improve your physique. That is the big difference. Where we're taught in life, goals: get comfortable, find peace, be successful, you bust your ass, and then sometimes you can back off and just ride that wave. And yes, even in the fitness industry or working out, fitness person or whatever you want to call it, excuse me, you can do that and ride the wave. But quite often we constantly want more. And if you're a competitor on or off stage, you are striving for more. So you have to learn and accept to be uncomfortable with both your weight training and your diet, where you may not be happy in the moment. Your workouts may suck as far as you realize, I got to push myself. Oh, God, I got to really stick to my diet to break through the plateau. That's not happiness in the moment. I understand. Although, when you look back and you chipped away, you're going to be happy that you did so because the progress is going to be there. You broke through that sticking point. That plateau is long gone. So how can I apply this? All right. So that was my intro. So how can I really apply this and think and realize if I'm being if I'm being just too comfortable with my training? Well, it's a personal choice, right, guys? I mean, you can start working out and have great progress. And then just like I was talking about earlier, you lose a few pounds, you get stronger, you go to the gym 2, 3, maybe 4 times a week, you enjoy it, it's there for you, and you reach a level of wow, I changed my body. And just like, going to school, busting your ass, getting that job, being comfortable, you can ride that wave. But if you want more, and if you want to be on stage, you got to take it to the next level. And when it comes to weight training, I'm not telling you to do more. You got to be smarter with your weight training. You got to make sure that your form and your technique is there. You got to make sure that you're connecting to certain exercises. And most importantly, you can't be afraid to push yourself. Your body is resilient. Once you master the form and technique, and you do those working sets after you do your 1 or 2 warm-up sets for any exercise, you cannot be afraid to push yourself and fail. That is what's going to help you break through the plateau when it comes to your weight training. To me, it's addicting. I that's one of the reasons why I still weight train. Compete or not compete, I'm in competition with myself. And every time I go in there, I still track my workouts, which I highly recommend for you to do so you can see what you did and see what you have to do next time. Write it down on pen and paper or use an app saying that, you know what, I did my 90 pounds for 3 sets. It was hard, but I did it. I'm going to go for 95 next time. Linear progression. So you see it and you try it. But if you fail, so what? But at least you got uncomfortable and you tested yourself. Next workout, you try that 95 pounds again, and guess what? You got your 3 sets of 10. You were able to grind those reps out. And that to me is such a rewarding feeling, and that's why I set small goals, workout to workout, to test myself and not being afraid to be uncomfortable. So that's where it's at. That's how you break through the plateaus. Now, first and foremost, you got to be consistent. You need the discipline. You can't be a weekend warrior when it comes to weight training, where you train 2 or 3 times a week, and then just totally let go on the weekends. And that's the diet I'm going to get to in a little bit. But being uncomfortable means going in, getting it done, grinding away, and not being afraid to fail, because your body is going to have the benefits of the weight training, and it all starts with the mindset. Whatever's going in between your ears, your body's going to follow. Now, sometimes it just takes a little bit more time. You got to be forgiving on yourself. But if you're being uncomfortable, training hard and smart, testing yourself, pushing yourself, the results are going to come, guys. I can promise you that. It's hard as an online coach because you work with so many people and we trust them that they are pushing themselves, and I send them workouts and I send them a lot of these podcasts as a reminder how to train, increase weight. But sometimes, even these people who compete, or even maybe some of my clients, they coast through their training because they think it's just enough. You know what? I am going 5 times a week. I am getting, the workouts in, but are they having that last element that's so important? Are they training to failure or really grinding away, not being afraid to fail? That is the key. I've seen it firsthand where people will just do as little as possible to reach a goal. Now, that's not how you're going to be successful in life. Maybe that's how they got through school. They just did whatever they had to do to graduate, but then they were comfortable with it. So you see where I'm going with this. It's the same thing. You're training. You gotta, sometimes there's days you don't want to go in, but you could go in. You go in and you push yourself. So you can't fall into the trap of just being comfortable. Now, if you're satisfied and content doing what you're doing, you can ignore what I said over the last 5 minutes, right? You could be like, whatever. I'm getting there. I'm healthy. And that's great. That's good. But if you want to level up, that's where you have to be willing to put the work in, be patient, trust the process of your program, wherever it's coming from, do the weight training the right way, and then really grind. Okay. I joke around. It's true. I'm sick in the head a little bit. I love pushing myself. My form is super tight. I focus on that because at my age, I don't want any more injuries, but I'm not afraid to fail. I feel better after failing because I know I let it all out. Didn't leave anything, didn't second guess after I leave my home gym. It's like, I did it. I can move on the rest of my day. I'll worry about my next workout when I walk back into my gym. So that's the mentality that you need. If you want success, guys, that's the mentality that you need to adapt and eventually get to. I mean, the best of the world doing whatever they do, they fail more often than succeed. They push themselves, they ignore the noise, and they do their work. And that's what it comes down to. Now, it's very similar to the diet, where your diet can be good, you can be losing weight, you can be getting stronger, but then all of a sudden you hit a plateau. And why is that? Well, there's so many reasons, and I'm going to cover a few of them. And I touched upon one. One could be your weekend warrior. Monday through Friday, you have that structure, your work schedule, you're nailing your diet. Then the weekend comes, you want to de-stress, you want to reduce the anxiety, so you go out to dinner a couple times, have some drinks, and that's all great. I'm about balance and flexibility, guys. Trust me, I do the same. But come Monday, if you look back on your weekend, you're like, why did I do that? I erased the whole week of dieting or eating properly, and now I got to go back at it and overcompensate. Well, that's the whole idea, what I was saying, that you got to be uncomfortable sometimes to look back and be proud of your progress instead of just being happy in the moment. Because weekend warriors are just being happy in the moment because they want to reward themselves, but then they feel bad that they fucked it up over the weekend. So it's your choice. And that's where being uncomfortable or being too comfortable can be counterproductive to your progress. And that's a personal choice. Because to break through that next plateau of losing that next 5 pounds, you do need to tighten up your diet. You can't be a weekend warrior. You can't focus on just being happy in the moment. You got to string some weeks together following a plan, at least, to gather that data. So you look back and you're like, you know what? I gained this data. I know what to do next. And I was happy being uncomfortable and just having the discipline of the diet and sticking to it. That to me is one of the hardest things to do, because I'll have success with clients right away because, yeah, they're eating less and they're working out. But then they're realizing, you know what? Having these free meals all too often, going out, Friday night, Saturday night, is starting to, be counterproductive. But if you're happy with that, hey, that's great. My clients in the off season will be that way, and I'm fine with it. But when it comes to contest prep time, or specifically trying to reach a goal, the comfortableness of your diet needs to leave, and you need to focus on the game plan ahead because you want to reach a certain level. And that's where I'm trying to have you differentiate the two, where I'm not telling you not to have a drink again or have a slice of pizza or chocolate chip cookie. No. But if there is a part of you that realizes that I'm not reaching my goals, and it's because you're comfortable in dieting and the way that you're eating and you're happy with it, well, maybe that's the issue, that you got to be like, I got to lock it up. I've talked about people in the past or people I've come across where, yeah, they'll follow the Monday through Friday, and the weekends they mess it up, or football season rolls around and they'll have friends over and they have wings and whatnot, and they'll be like, why am I not losing weight? I'm like, well, you're nailing it, but if you have those few extra calories that are above, your maintenance or deficit, guess what? You're not going to lose any more body fat. It's that simple. It's math. And they're doing what was necessary and making them happy and comfortable in the moment. But ultimately, if you want to reach a goal, you need to be disciplined. You need to have the patience. All the same factors for the weight training would be also applied to the diet. And that, to me, is what's going to separate the winners from the losers. Not to be harsh, but that's what it comes down to. Because initially, if you start weight training, you start doing a little bit of cardio, clean up your diet, you're going to have the progress. But are you going to be comfortable and thinking like, you know what, this is where I want to be? And if it is, that's awesome. You did some work. You're sticking to it. Your body looks better. But if you want to keep on going and you're realizing, wow, I hit a sticking point. I'm at a plateau. My muscles aren't growing as much. Or, you know what, I would like to be a little bit leaner to see what I can uncover what I built up. That's where the grind comes in. That's where the mindset of like, you know what? I'm going to do what's necessary. Just like what you did in college, just like what you did in your first job to prove yourself. You got to apply it to your weight training and your diet. Once again, and I'm not just saying for a week or 2 weeks. It could take a couple of months easily. And that's the sacrifice and that's the mentality that you need, to break through that uncomfortableness that I've been repeating. If this was a beer drinking game, you guys would be drunk by now if I kept on, if the word was comfortable. So, in all seriousness, that's what you got to decide for yourself. If you're happy in the moment doing what you're doing, awesome. But if you're thinking, wow, you know what? I competed last weekend. I looked good. I did this amount of work. What is necessary for me to improve? And that is breaking through that sticking point and maybe adhering to your diet a little bit more. Maybe it's training a little bit harder or smarter and grinding and not being afraid to fail. So it's really a combination of things. And I think once you bring all that together with your mindset, you'll be unstoppable. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. It's not a light switch. It's often a dimmer that can inch a little bit forward each day. And eventually, over time, you're going to be locked in. Now, I'm not telling you never to enjoy yourselves again. No. I mean, the basis and philosophies of my podcast and my coaching is balance and flexibility. Nothing too extreme, up or down. It's not all or nothing. But if you're in the predicament of thinking, why am I not having more progress? That is what I want you guys to reflect on. How comfortable you are doing what you're doing and realizing, can you do more or push yourself more or stick to your diet a little bit greater? So I'm going to end this one. Hopefully it's been helpful. If you like my podcast, please subscribe so you'll be notified. Please share on social media. Interesting in coaching and learning more about my philosophies that you think will benefit you. FitFranco at Verizon.net, Team Franco Bodybuilding on the socials. I'll talk to you next time.